everybody likes to see the big shot at the end of the game and that kind of stuff. One of the things that does have me a little bit excited, at least excited from a family and selfish interest standpoint. I actually have two older brothers. I've got a brother named Butch and a brother named Johnny, and both of them actually played college basketball. My brother Butch played ball at Yale long time ago. Well, I shouldn't say a long time ago, not like he's 75, but he's about 55. But he's clearly excited, so I'm excited for him because the Yale Bulldogs, which is a long shot, but the Bulldogs from Yale have made it into the tournament for the first time in like 50 years. They just have not been to the tournament, in forever. It could be like 53, 54 years, something like that. But I know he's extremely, extremely excited about the fact that they have made it. He went to the game with Columbia, that was kind of their last game to kind of make their way in, and I think all of his his guys from his era are kind of getting back together. But and by the way, he was good. He was a really, really good ball player back in the day. Actually got drafted by the Sixers, and was like I think still to this day is like the second leading scorer in Ivy League history. So was a really good and that's like second only to Bill Bradley. So he was a really, really good ball player. And my other brother Johnny played at Brown. Did not have quite as an illustrious career, but I actually got to see both of them play against each other in college basketball, which was pretty cool. I mean, granted, it's not exactly Kentucky and Louisville, or or Kentucky and Kansas, but nonetheless, it was fun to see growing up your two brothers playing college ball. So congrats to the Yale Bulldogs. I'm sure that's top on everyone's list. Although, by the way, they are one of the big upset favorites for the tournament that a lot of folks have picked, because they are playing, I believe, Oregon in the first round in Providence, which is only right up the road from where Yale is at. So I believe they are one of the upset favorites to to kind of start off the tournament. Everybody likes to identify who's going to upset who and where, and apparently they are one of the teams that's positioned to do so. It looks like they have some very, very good athletes. I only checked out. I'm not going to act like I'm watching Yale basketball on a regular basis, but I did check out a little piece of their last couple of games, and it does look like they have some very strong athletes. A couple of guys who could really run the floor. I was surprised because normally in the Ivy League you don't see that level of athlete. That tends to be the exception rather than the rule. But they had a couple of guys who were pretty sharp. So we'll see. Maybe they can take out Oregon, and we will see what happens with that. But that's college basketball, at least from the NCAA tournament perspective. We can go over ones and twos. I mean, my thought with the brackets and the whole March Madness thing is that there are so few dudes who are so few dudes. I guess I got to be more PC. There are so few people who are really immersed in college basketball who really know what they're talking about. And even the ones who know what they're talking about don't really know what they're talking about. Like I feel that way about NFL football. Like a lot of people, get out here and hypothesize about who's gonna beat who, when, and on any given Sunday it looks like anybody could be right and anybody could be wrong. So you're not really this great prognosticator if you really can't call the games well anyway. I mean, some of the best guys who do it, I think, are not necessarily the guys who are on TV. They tend to be the guys in Vegas who are, who are running the books. It seems to me that they've got better eyes than a lot of the guys who are on TV who are just, talking about it. I think the same thing applies when you look at the NCAA brackets and March Madness. It's just a complete crapshoot. It's 64 teams. It's teams from all over the country. It's a lot of teams that folks have not seen before, and I think sometimes people who are complete novices at this have as good a shot at doing it well as the guys who quote unquote really know what they're talking about. So I think sometimes you find the folks who are literally picking because of the color of people's uniforms or the nicknames of their teams. Once you get down, beyond the top 20, most of us haven't, seen these folks play, and, we start to deal with mid-majors and small majors and Ivy League ball and whatever else in terms of who made the tournament, who knows who these people are. So it can be fun, it can be reasonably exciting, but it is what it is. So I'm not going to be one of these guys who's going to sit here and predict who's going to do what. I think a little bit later I may, when it gets closer to the Sweet 16, after I do some viewing, then I might be able to better say who I think might make it to the Final Four or something. But right here, right now, I think that the folks who put the brackets together do a good job with the top four to top 8, kind of like college football. They tend to pick those well, and then after that, I think it's a little bit of a crapshoot. But so that's kind of the big, college basketball news on the field, at least. Now, off the field, there's a couple of different college basketball issues that I wanted to touch upon today. One of them is my man Rick Petino in the program at Louisville. Louisville has a significant issue. They've got a significant issue in that, for those who have not stayed up with it, Coach Petino and the Louisville team, they've been accused of having some issues with some ladies of the night and a few nefarious characters who have been involved with their team. And specifically, they say that they have used, specifically the allegations are that they have used prostitutes to entice college recruits to want to play at Louisville, which I'm sure breaks some sort of law somewhere, somehow. And in the process of doing so, they have not represented themselves perhaps as well as they should have. So everybody is a little bit concerned with what that looks like, what that looks like and feels like. The additional challenge is that Louisville has, this is the first scandal involving prostitutes, specifically in players. However, there was an incident involving Petino himself a few years ago. It was several years ago, actually, in fairness, but there was an issue regarding Petino himself and an extramarital affair he had, and it got a little bit messy because it actually involved one of his coaches or a team manager's spouse. That's what I heard today. Now there might have been 2 incidents because I thought originally it involved an employee. I thought it involved a waitress at a restaurant. Excuse me, but perhaps it involved somebody other than that. But either way, for sure, there was an incident. There was an incident in a restaurant. He definitely was caught out there. He had a cop to the whole thing. I think if you're him, it's messy to now have this happen even though it's several years later, even though it's unrelated. It's just kind of messy for the university and a little bit messy for him personally. And then there's somebody on the board. There's at least one trustee of the board of Louisville who is, I think, called for him to step down because she feels that he has, kind of besmudged the program and brought shame to it with both his previous incident as well as this one. So that's a little bit, it's a little bit tough. Now, I would say this. I would say that, I think that Petino is one of the most buttoned-up guys in college basketball. I think he's a great coach. I knew him personally when I was growing up because before I got wider, I used to actually play basketball. Before I thought I was going to be about 6'6", and that didn't quite work out for me. I ended up being closer to 6 feet wide than 6'6", more like 6 feet, 6 inches wide. But So hence I ended up playing football versus playing basketball in college. But excuse me. But my original intention was to play basketball. I had the occasion to meet Petino at several different basketball camps that some different all-star basketball camps that I participated in, and he was just a really, really thorough, intense guy back in the day. And I am sure, from everything I understand, he is still that way. I think the challenge with that is that when you are that buttoned up and that tight, that tightly wound, that you control everything, and that's your perception, and I mean that's everyone's perception about you, and that's your MO. It's difficult to say, oh, I know everything about everyone everywhere, and I run this buttoned up, super tight ship, and then folks look up, and then you start to tell them that, hey, I know everything about everything everywhere, but, oh, I don't know about that over there. Oh yeah, that thing over there, that whole prostitution thing. No, I don't. I have no idea. In fact, I am outraged. I told everybody to stop doing that, and they're obviously not listening. So now they're gonna get me mad because I told them to stop, having prostitutes in the dorms, and the guys they won't stop. So I think I think it's difficult for him to go there, and kind of have that, duplicitous role where you're that tight and appear to know everything and appear to be buttoned up. If you look at the way Rick Petino dresses, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but the way he dresses like he's absolutely immaculate. You look at it like it looks like there's not a hair out of place, not a thing out of place. Well, that same person, he has that same management style, that same personality. Like that guy who you see, that's who he is. And again, that doesn't make him a bad person. And I'm not saying that people can't. It is human to error, and whatever happened in his relationship with his wife, it is what it is. But if you're the school, and that incident became as big as it did, it's difficult not to kind of link the two and just say, hey, when are we going to be kind of tired of this whole thing? Now, if they're able to corral the matter at this point, and that's a big if, but if they are able to somewhat corral the matter, and kind of bring it back under control, then maybe they can say, okay, well, there's, we've at least limited the damage to what this is right here and right now, but it's not going to get any worse. Perhaps they can, perhaps there's a way they can still do that. I'm just not sure. I'm just not altogether sure that they can definitely do that. So I think that part becomes a little bit of a challenge. The other significant thing I think was that my man at LSU, what is the young fellow's name now? His name escapes me, which is really unfortunate. But the forward guard, what have you, for LSU, who has been the Ben Simmons, who's been the freshman of the year, it looks like, and looked like he was going to be the player of the year at one point, has been disqualified from being being considered for the Wooden Award as college basketball's top player. And I guess that gets me to wondering, like, what is it that he did, and I think I brought this up last week, but what is it that he did that is so bad that they're saying that he has disqualified himself academically from participating in being considered for the Wooden Award? However, if his team had done well enough to participate in the NCAA tournament, he still would have been able to participate in the NCAA tournament. And now his team feels like they've kind of blown up and haven't done well, and they didn't make it to the NCAA tournament. And now they've decided that they're not going to participate in the NIT tournament, the consolation tournament, even if they're invited. I'm not sure that any of it is a great look. It's not a great look for Simmons. It's not a great look for LSU.